the people selling sexual services today as possible victims of trafficking. If they are not victims of trafficking, we feel that most of them are not selling sex as a good option for how they should spend their lives. They are in some way pressured into this way of working. They are pressured from their personal history, from their family, from their experiences. You do not choose to be a prostitute as a free and independent choice where you feel, what shall I do with my life? Shall I be a professor of law? Should I be a prostitute? Or what do I do? This is not the way. It's not a normal job. And we wish to assist people in leaving prostitution. And this law was introduced at the same time as we increase our measures to assist people in prostitution, to give them vocational training, to give them educational measures, to assist them with health and social security needs. So this is a package from us, coming from the concern of our fellow humans who are stuck in prostitution. The law is quite simple because it just states very clearly that any person who for payment engages in sexual activity is liable for imprisonment for up to 6 months or a fine. And the punishment so far has been that people have received a fine of about 1,000 euro, equivalent to 1,000 euro, for first-time offenders. And if people repeat the offence, then the fine might go up, or they might be facing a prison sentence. But at the moment, it's been we have used fines, and people have been fined in street, trying to engage in street prostitution in the first 2 weeks of the law, and also in apartments. So the police will wait outside apartments where they know prostitution is ongoing, and people will be apprehended when they exit the building, and they will be fined.
In this new law, it's not only buying sex that is illegal, it is also illegal to attempt buying sex. So the people that has received fines so far under this law has done so for trying to buy sex, not for actually buying. The criminalization came after, as I said, many years of debate, and there has been very many different arguments in those debates. Both a wish not to have foreign prostitution in Norway, concerns about trafficking, concerns about violence against women, concerns of unwanted migration. There are many different concerns that conflate in these debates. In the last stretch of the debate, the issue of trafficking was particularly important. So the kind of end reason for why politicians wanted to criminalize buying sex was as a way of preventing trafficking, because it kind of targeting the demand side of prostitution would also reduce trafficking.
We think that you should punish the client because we consider it a crime to buy a woman. You are buying a person that not necessarily is voluntarily doing what she's doing. And it's related to what I mentioned, that we can't see, as long as you want a society also for women, where women are respected, it's not possible at the same time to buy women. And Of course, we all know that the demand for prostitution is an important driving force for trafficking. So if you want to combat trafficking, you have to address the demand side. Men must get aware that they are responsible too. A lot of persons in Norway think that prostitution shouldn't exist, because as long as you see the woman as a commodity, you haven't achieved gender equality. So that has, and you should always strive to combat violence against women. And a lot of us think that prostitution should be considered violence against women.
We have seen a huge increase in street prostitution, and we have had investigations showing that several of the women are suspected to be victims of trafficking or organized by pimping groups from Norway or from other countries. Mm-hmm. The Norwegian law is based on fighting trafficking in human beings. It's not a moralistic approach, it's not a gender issue, it's seen as a measure to fight trafficking in human beings. This is the whole foundation of the law in Norway.
Yeah, because the law came into effect on the 1st of January this year. And of course, it's very difficult to say whether or not a law has any effects in such a short time. But in the beginning of the year, the police was very active in the prostitution markets, being very visible. And we saw street prostitution be reduced dramatically in the largest cities in the first 3 months. We also seen a reduction in ads for prostitution, indoors prostitution.
From one day to another, people were not on the streets anymore. We knew that this would be a long struggle, that you can have a good period with good effects of the law, and if the police pressure is loosened, the market will come back. Prostitution markets, they know how to adapt. I mean, they fill in the gaps. They can. If there is an area where the police is not putting the pressure, the market will be there. So at the moment, we are still having these positive effects. We have had a cold winter. It has not been nice to be in street prostitution this winter in Norway. Now the weather is better, but there is no return of street prostitution. I just want to say that from the point of view of Norway, we are very focused on what the international conventions say about the need for countries to address the question of demand. Demand for services that involve exploitation of people in trafficking. So every country must address this question of demand, and they must do it from their national situation. We cannot say that we insist that this law should be the same law in all countries of Europe, but we insist that all countries must look at the demand side, and they must also be open-minded in their discussions about prostitution, about trafficking. They must be brave enough to say, to sort of look at the market, look at the is there a need for prostitution? What need is this? Which men need prostitutes? What is exactly the problems concerning prostitution? Because mainly the discussions on this area is very difficult and very often does not attack the core problems, but it goes away somewhere else, and people they don't really want to tackle the main problems concerning demand. And that, in our opinion, is necessary. And then you make the laws according to your own assessment.